Join Bob Kolazarik as he welcomes a diverse array of guests to the enlightening talk show, Greetings from the Ashram. In each episode, Bob sits down with experts and practitioners from the world of complementary healing modalities, spirituality, and holistic wellness to delve into the transformative power of these practices. From ancient traditions to cutting-edge therapies, Greetings from the Ashram offers viewers an insightful and uplifting journey into the realms of mind, body, and spirit. So now, please welcome your host, Bob Kolazarik.
Hello, everyone. Namaste and welcome. I am Bob Kolazarik, and you're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. It's with great pleasure to introduce today Dr. Ashleigh Moreland, the vibrant CEO of the Remind Institute, distinguished neuroscientist, best-selling author, therapist, and coach. Today, Dr. Moreland graces us with her presence to share her extraordinary path of personal evolution and metamorphosis, drawing inspiration from the timeless biblical principle of love. So join me in welcoming Dr. Ashleigh Moreland.
Hello.
Dr. I just wanted to let the audience know we're running a few minutes late. We had a little time zone discrepancy. You're in from Australia.
Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah, so it's Saturday morning for you, just getting into Friday evening here. So thank you for joining. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah, so you got an interesting story. You do a lot of work, Dr. Ash, but what really stands out for me is the biblical verse aspect of your work. So I'm just curious to get started, like what biblical verses or principles that have inspired you on your personal growth journey?
Yeah, gosh, so many. The one that this episode is kind of focused on is around, I went through this massive journey myself. I grew up with quite a lot of religious trauma. And during COVID, actually, really early in COVID, Melbourne was the most locked down city in all of the world. And I started experiencing some pretty significant sort of supernatural spiritual things. And over the course of that journey, I picked up a Bible for the first time since I was a child. And I had been previously very triggered. I refused to go into churches. I refused, if someone said God or Jesus to me, I was like very, very shut down and closed off. And I think also being in a scientific community, there's quite a bias towards anything of the unseen nature, like prove it kind of thing. And I opened up this Bible, and the first thing that I saw was love your neighbor as yourself. And my neighbors at the time, I was very, very challenged by them. On a number of occasions, I had walked out at 3:00 in the morning in my dressing gown, screaming at them, and I had sworn at them, and I did not conduct myself in a very loving way, put it that way. And I was so challenged by this because I thought, what do you mean I have to love these people who keep me awake all night, who have parties right outside my bedroom window, who like give me all the reasons that make a neighbor difficult to love? And that was where I was at. So this just felt like a slap in the face of going, I don't want to love these people. What do you mean I have to love them? So that was a life-changing moment for me.
Yeah, I find that interesting, like the synchronicities and the coincidences, how you get messages, right? I talk about that on the show a lot. And that was just a message that you needed to get at that moment. And we've all had neighbors like that. And I don't like to think I was ever the neighbor like that, but I don't know. There might have been a time or two when somebody called on me.
Maybe. I think it's not focusing so much on the literal nature of that it was literally my neighbors. And I think if I had great neighbors, that verse wouldn't have had any impact on me, and I wouldn't have had the journey that I've had. And I now wouldn't have this gift of being able to hold people by the hand and teach them how to love well and how to forgive and what all this means. But it's so much more than neighbors, as you know. Like, I have an ex-husband who can be very hard to love. And this journey has supported me in being able to love him. And, I experienced a lot of childhood trauma. And those experiences, if I didn't have this massive just perspective change, I would still be holding on, feeling like a victim, feeling like they didn't deserve my forgiveness, or that was in me. That unforgiveness and the hurt and the pain and the anger that I held from past experiences, and also with my literal neighbor, that one experience with scripture opened a door for me to actually start exploring that what I was holding was actually hurting me. And the promise of God is to set us free. So that was him opening a door to my freedom.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's go back a little bit. You said during COVID, when COVID started, you had started having different experiences. So this is probably still like is a continuation of that. So what kind of experiences did you start to have during COVID? I think that's really interesting.
Probably the most profound was I experienced this really insane vision. And it was spiritual in nature, and it was absolute conviction, but I knew that I was awake. I hadn't been drinking. I wasn't under the influence of anything. And I knew what I saw. And I didn't tell anyone for days and I literally cried. I think I cried for about 3 days because it was so full on, and I didn't know where to turn because, like I said, my whole network was scientists and people who, if I were to try and tell them this, they would diagnose me with schizophrenia and institutionalize me in a psych ward. And
Well,
that was
welcome
my
to the club.
fear.
Welcome to the
Yeah,
club. A lot of us like
totally. And it was one of my greatest fears. So it was then kind of navigating, what does all this mean, and what's my belief in this? And I was challenged in every one of my beliefs, I think. And it was just this really interesting thing because at that particular time in my life, I was probably at the peak of struggle. And I remember just waking up going, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Either something has to drastically change or I am tapping out of life. Like I actually can't do it. And that's sort of the catalyst of when all this stuff started happening. And the really amazing thing for me was it it kind of was like God was waiting for me to surrender. And he was gracious
I
enough
don't
to
mean to
watch me
laugh, but
struggle.
I know what you mean. I've been there myself. But yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
the beatings will continue until morale improves, kind of thing. It's like okay, fine, just bring it on. I
totally. And this is one of the things I literally have a very scientific scale that I use with people when I'm having a consultation with them to see if we're a good fit to work together. I call it the I can't do this anymore scale. And I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Because unless, in my experience, in my own life and in many, many, many people all around the world I've led through their own journeys, if you're not an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 on the I can't do this anymore scale, the discomfort required to change is greater than the discomfort of just staying the same. So the way our nervous system drives action is we either avoid pain and discomfort or we move towards pleasure. And in my healing journey, it was extremely uncomfortable. I had to look at myself. I had to look at like my own toxic patterns of behavior and the hurt that I had caused people, and all of these things which were confronting for me to look at.
Yeah, I agree, and I can relate. I told the story of my ex-wife who we separated and found out she had terminal cancer. After that,
Mm.
we didn't get back together, but after our divorce was finalized, my teacher, Master Glenn, he said you should help her with the chemo, and take care of her physically. And I did for like 8 or 9 months, but there was a lot of growth in that because, she triggered me the whole time. But then I started to learn
Yeah.
all the things that I was doing wrong and what made me a bad partner and all my triggers. And, I think that whole process just made me change in a profound way too. So,
Totally. And this has been my learning is that if I changed my viewpoint to every experience is happening for me, it totally shifts the way that I see it, especially being triggered. Like I'm remarried and my husband and I, like any normal couple, can trigger each other. But I choose to see it that this pain and this hurt and these wounds are in me. You're my teammate to help me expose them, because once they're exposed, then I can take some authority over them. Then I can change them. Then I can heal them. But while they're in the realm of the unconscious, unconscious literally means to not see. So we have all of these teammates that can hurt us and trigger us and challenge us and invite us to bring these things to the surface so that we then get to explore them. It takes them from the unseen to the seen, and then we get to explore them and heal them. That's our journey together. We're literally all people walking each other home to ourselves.
oh, so true. And we're all mirrors to one another. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, you know, it's an ongoing process. It really is.
Yeah.
So, what do you think in your clientele? Have you had other people experience like these profound shifts with the perspective of what you're talking about, the love based concept of love?
Yeah, totally. I think everything is love. And, biblically, it says God is love. And when we're looking at this shift, I guess even just that little perspective shift of how we choose to see something that triggers us, when I look at that, I go, oh my gosh, my husband loves me so well by loving me enough to bring things to my attention. And so when people can learn a framework of moving through life where not everything is a threat, and this is where my expertise in neuroplasticity is really, really beneficial, because our nervous system is literally designed to keep us alive. It has a very big bias towards that. And so, particularly people who have experienced like early life experiences. Now, I'm reluctant to use the word childhood trauma because people have assign a meaning to the word trauma. But let's even peel it back and go, if trauma wasn't what we think it is, what could trauma be to our nervous system in terms of perceiving threat? A child's innate needs are to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel safe, to feel valued and important and like they matter. Did we have that consistently in our childhood? And if we didn't, then our nervous system is literally wired to have our connection and our survival threatened. And so what I see is that when people have that bias towards just being completely wired for hypervigilance of threat and, survival over connection, or threat over connection, it makes relationships hard. It makes work hard. It makes going out in public hard, being a functional member of society hard. And so, what I find with my work is that people need to come home to themselves. And it's learning that beneath everything is shame and trauma. And shame is the not enoughness, the I am bad, I am not enough. If I was good enough, you would have done this for me, or you wouldn't have left me, or you wouldn't have gone to work all day and played with me instead, which we know rationally is not possible. I just had this conversation with my 7-year-old daughter yesterday. Rationally, that's not possible. But a child doesn't even have the part of the brain required for rationality until it starts developing around 7. So their nervous system's not functioning from rationality. It's functioning from instinct.
Yeah, I have a client to that point who was like so upset with her father, and she's like in her mid 20s, and
Mhm.
her father's just like doesn't know what's going on, and she's like resentful. And then we got into it, and it's like, well, he was never around that much when I was a
Yeah.
little girl because he was always
Mhm.
working. To your point,
Yeah.
and so that really left a really lasting impression. And so I'm
It's
glad we were able to look at that, and figure that out.
totally. And it's so powerful. Like I will share quite vulnerably here. My father was an alcoholic. He was quite abusive when I was growing up. And over my journey, part of this has been learning how to love the person who abused me and what love means. Like, people even listening to this will be assigning a meaning to that to love my dad who abused me means that it has to look like this, and I have to talk to him all the time, and he has to be coming over for dinner. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that. And when I was learning to love my father, we had a really profound experience, ironically, around a similar time, where I grew up believing I wasn't good enough. Nothing I ever did was enough. My dad didn't love me. He was quite abusive towards me. And I had my first suicide attempt when I was 14.
Well,
I wrote a letter, and the letter was just me pouring the hurt from my heart onto a page, and it was all about my dad. And around Father's Day, he found the letter in a box in the shed, and he read it. And it absolutely broke him open, because everything that he was doing for me, the way that he was working so hard for our family and the sacrifices he was making and how hard he pushed me in my sport and in my education, he was doing because he loved me and he wanted more for me than he ever had. That's how he saw it. But I saw it as nothing I ever do is enough, and you have to keep pushing me for more, and that's never enough. And it was just like this clashing of realities where neither of them were true. It's just how we perceived it. And we have the most beautiful relationship now where we can nurture and honor each other and have these really deep conversations. And he's a different man. He's a completely different man.
well, he opened up his eyes. My generation, probably your father's generation, we weren't taught how to be loving. We were taught big boys don't cry, bury your emotions deep.
Yeah.
Kids are to be seen and not heard, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm glad that you guys were able to work through that. But it is time to take a short commercial break. I am Bob Kolazarek, and you're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. And we'll be back with Dr. Ash right after this.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Bob Kolazarek, and you're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We're back with Dr. Ash. Thanks for sharing that story. That was, like I was saying, a commercial. It's kind of getting me a little bit emotional with you sharing that. So it's very powerful. So
Yeah.
we learned that how you navigated that with your father. What about navigating other relationships with challenging individuals? Are you treating them all with love, or how do you go about, how is it life changed for you with this new approach? How do you handle it?
Yeah, look, it changes absolutely everything. And I run a global company, and that company, our number one value is that love is at the center of everything we do. And so even just in that, like sometimes people can be hard to deal with. Sometimes people don't pay invoices. Sometimes like just stuff happens. And when we approach that through the lens of love, how can we love this person well and still uphold a boundary? And that thing can apply to absolutely everything. So, perfect example, my first husband, who I had grown up with, we had known each other since I was 4 years old. He and I had this fiery, toxic relationship. We just pushed each other's buttons and we knew how to hurt each other like no one else on the planet. And that didn't change just because we separated, but he's the father of my children. So we have a lifetime contract, regardless of whether we like it or not. And at the time, he was experiencing a lot of hurt. And there were days when I was receiving up to 200 text messages a day of just rage and anger and hurt and telling me things that were quite awful. And this is where I learned the difference between love is a higher self thing. Love is, to me, a soul thing. Whereas my physical body, my nervous system is still vulnerable to perceiving threat. And so in my body, my physical reaction in my body was anger and hurt and wanting to just pounce on him and rage. And I would feel adrenaline in my body. And this is where the separation between what I feel in my body as the human version of me, the human flesh Ash, as opposed to my soul me, I had to choose whether I play out the reaction or whether I let my body process what my body's feeling and then respond from my heart. And that was pretty tough to learn, but I had an analogy with my son recently who experienced bullying at school. And he was so angry. His friends were being really mean. And he came home and he's like, I want to block them and I want to delete them and I want to do this and I'm never speaking to them again. And so I literally, these are my little props that I use with clients. You can see it's just a decorated toilet roll that my daughter made and a little hippo. And I said to him, who are you really? And he's like, I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm generous, I'm all these things. And he is. He's a really beautiful person. And this is true for everyone. The Bible tells us that we're made in the likeness and image of God, and God is love. And then you look at the fruits of the Spirit. It's patience, gentleness, kindness, self-control. So that's us. Now, as an integrated being in mind, body, spirit, I am still all those things, but my body can feel anger. And it can feel hurt. So he was feeling mostly angry. The difference is if he processes that anger and gives that anger a job to do, it might look like, getting on his bed and screaming and punching and actually getting an energetic charge of that emotion out of his body. He still comes back to himself. So that's just him feeling an emotion, but he responds from him. This one is when he becomes the emotion. I am angry is very different to I feel angry. Yeah. Because I am angry is he becomes anger and he behaves anger and he projects anger. And the decisions he makes is as him as anger. And that's how I handled it. I recognized that I am loving and kind and gentle and compassionate and understanding. But it's my responsibility to, first of all, have awareness of the emotions in my body, know what to do with those emotions to actually honor them and get them out, and then respond from the place that's me, not from the emotion.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's wonderful that your son knows that. We in our spiritual practice, our Hatha yoga, we understand that we are the soul, and the soul is love, compassion, forgiveness, understanding, and all that.
Yeah.
That's the higher level of emotions. The lower level emotions that you're talking about, the anger, the fear, the jealousy, the rage, is like in the solar plexus. It's in your body, and we understand that we are not the emotions, like you were saying, but we have
Mhm.
emotions, and we just
Yes.
have to deal with it. But that is such a valuable lesson for a child to grow up knowing that and having that kind of tutelage. So that's wonderful for him.
Yeah, we have these conversations in our home a lot. Like, literally, I opened up a can of worms yesterday because I was literally brushing my daughter's hair. She wanted pigtails. She's 7 years old and she's absolutely adorable. And as I was brushing her hair, I said, "Sweetheart, do you ever feel like anything matters more to me than you do?" And she said, "Yeah, sometimes." And I said to her, "Really? Can you tell me what that is or when you feel that?" And she said, "Sometimes I feel like your laptop is more important to you than me." Isn't that confronting? Because
Yeah.
that's not true. That's not real. Because
So,
I know that I just have some work I need to do, but that's how she perceives it. And so that we then were able to have a conversation around, well, what would it look like? How would you know that you are more important to me than my laptop? What would that look like? What do you need to hear? What do you want me to say? How do you want me to live that? And she was able to tell me in really big detail exactly what I needed to hear, exactly what I needed to say, so that if I did have work to do, she would know that she gets my attention as soon as we're done, or whatever it might be. But how profound just having those conversations and going, I know I love you, but what do you need to see or hear from me to know I love you?
well, that's huge, based, especially what we were just talking about, where you thought your father didn't love you. My clients thought, their
Mm-hmm.
father didn't love them, and all these years go by, and you feel that way. So you're kind of nipping it in the bud with her. So you kind of breaking that kind of generational curse. If I don't know if it's a curse, but
Yeah,
that's huge. So
absolutely.
congratulations.
Thank you. I think that's applicable to any relationship. When I'm working with couples, I will say, what do you need? Literally, what words, in what order? What does love look and feel like to you? Because we go through having these unconscious expectations and standards and put so much pressure on the other person. And we can literally sit there and go, "You don't love me. I don't feel like you care." And the other person's doing all these things and showing them so many ways that they love them, but it's just not the way they want to see it or hear it. So it's just white noise. And
It's
it's
not their
so
love language, right?
exactly. And it's so easy to love people. Like, it's such a silly little example, but with my husband, he had a dog before we met. And he loves this dog. She was his companion for, every one of his hard times. And when we were married and we moved in together, I said to him, "It would mean a lot to me if you could greet me when you come home and then pat our dog." And it sounds so silly, but he was like,
No, but you're right. I'll have to give you that one. Don't go to the dog first.
"Yeah."
Yes,
And
I
it's just
agree.
the little things. And also, I think another thing with this is people have never really been taught just how to say what they need, how,
Yeah,
and
I'm
allow their
guilty.
needs to be
Guilty of
met.
that. I'm guilty of that too. Like I said,
Yeah,
I'm a older generation. I didn't have that kind of guidance. So I'm hitting 60 and I'm learning all this stuff. So my kids are in their 20s, so I'm trying to, you know, move it along with them. So they're doing a lot better. But
that's
I
awesome.
was like your father to you. I was like that with my kids, just work, work, work all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that
How
was
has
unfortunate.
your learning and growth changed your relationship with your children? Like, how have you seen that grow and evolve and heal even?
I'm much more loving than I ever was, more patient. I don't get upset with them when they do something that's really stupid that would normally trigger me. I don't yell, although it's sometimes, they have both recently moved out, but I would like get upset and I'd start to yell and they're like, "I thought you were all spiritual. I thought you had your emotions under control." So they'll call me out on it. But yeah, our relationship is so much more improved, And
Yeah.
they had some tough times, and they're doing so much better. They're well adjusted, and they're out living their lives. So that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So it's been a long road to get to that point.
It is, isn't it? But it also shows them, like, something I deal with a lot is parents. So I run a group program and we have people all around the world, and I'll have people in there who are there for themselves. Like, they're going, I'm struggling with anxiety or depression or, people pleasing or perfectionism or whatever it is. And they are navigating healing their up the family tree traumas and challenges. But when they realize that just by not knowing, just by doing their best and their best being limited by their level of understanding and consciousness, they have actually caused pain and hurt in their children unknowingly. And there's this real, like, deep grief and guilt and, oh, it's so heavy. That realization of going, oh my gosh, I love my kids so much. I didn't know that that's what I was giving them, or how I was treating them, what that made them feel, or how that impacted them. And I'm a massive believer that we agreed to this. Like, we are in contract with the people in our lives, and we play the role that we need to play for each other. And, I look at my kids and go, my son is almost 11, and he challenged me in his early life that made me realize I wasn't the mum he needed me to be. If he had been a cruisy, easy baby, I wouldn't have gone on this journey of healing initially, way back then. And then my daughter, if you put two photos side by side of my daughter and I, we are identical. You can't tell us apart.
Wow.
And she has the same personality as me. She's fiery. She's a big leader. And they were the qualities in me that were too much. So they were squashed. And she mirrored to me my wounding around the parts of me that weren't enough, or the parts of me that were too much. And so I've literally been given the gift of these two children to teach me. They are my greatest teachers out of everyone, because we all know that when a child is having a massive tantrum or doesn't want to listen or, doing whatever, that can bring stuff up for us. It brings up shame and trauma. So beautiful journey.
Yeah, it does. I am totally in agreement with karmic contracts, and they pick us as their parents, as we pick our parents, so we can learn our lessons. Figure out what our karmic debts are, pay off our debts, learn our lessons. So it is time to take another short commercial break. I'm your host, Bob Kolzarek. You're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We'll be right back with more of Dr. Ash right after this.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Bob Kolazaric, your host, and you're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We're back with Dr. Ashleigh Moreland. Hello, Dr. Ash. We were talking Arsha there, and I just liked what you were saying about, thanking me for sharing what I've been through and being the light out there. And you're saying, it's not a competition for the light workers of the world, right? So we all kind of need to unite and kind of be one, getting that message out there.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And actually, there's a lot of deception in the world. And what I mean by deception is what I find is many people who go into coaching or any kind of spiritual healing space, I tend to come across a lot of bypassing where people may be getting a lot of significance out of supporting people on their own journey. But by doing that, it's actually them bypassing their own pain and their own work and their own, trauma and struggles. And so I'm a massive believer in one thing that I feel like I have very good sense of is discernment and trusting my intuition or guidance, because people can say all the right things and people can write, beautiful lead funnels and all the marketing. But look at their life. Look at the fruits in their life. Look at how they conduct themselves. Look at how they respond to a complaint or to negative feedback or whatever. Because I think that no one's perfect, of course, but it's really important for people to not just have words, but be embodying the work that they're doing. And what I was saying was, in my space and in my community, it's really beautiful that there's not this sense of competition. There's not, everyone builds each other up and supports each other and knows that even if we're working solo, we are a collective working for humanity. And the people who do have that ego come through, who do have that, oh, but you stole my client, or you did this, or you did that, they're showing what they're not seeing in their own spiritual evolution. When those negative feelings of envy or jealousy or greed or anger or those kinds of things are coming to the surface, we know that's our pain body coming out to play. In which case, that's the very thing that we're bypassing, that our journey is showing us, so that we can go, oh, wow, what is this coming up for me? I actually feel really jealous right now.
No, yeah, it is powerful. And I like what you were saying is when we were talking about, people will gravitate to whoever resonates with them the most. And that's the way it should be. Like my show, I promote so many different people. I promote people more than I promote myself at my own company. It's just what I do. But, people will come to me that resonate with me. But I like to share what everybody's doing. So I love doing this show as a result of that.
Yeah.
It is not a competition. And, we had the Wesak Festival. You sound like a Buddhist or Hatha yogi, the way you talk. I swear you're one of us. It's that profound. But like the Wesak, we gathered together for the Wesak Festival, which is a big Buddhist festival where the Buddha comes down and blesses through the Christ all the light workers that gather so they can go do their work for the year. So it's a gathering of light workers, get the blessings, go do the work. And so we are one. We're one big community, and I just think that's a beautiful way to look at it, and sharing that. I think it's important to share that.
Yeah. I think the other really big revelation that I had was I was feeling a lot of resistance in my body around using the word healer. And I think part of that for me was feeling like, okay, if my ego is wanting recognition and my ego is wanting significance, then I'm going to call myself the healer. But I'm not. I am someone who just has relationship with unseen, who can hold someone's hand and help open the eyes and like break off the scales and take away or shine a light. We can put on a headlamp and shine a light on the things that they're not seeing that's holding them back. I can't heal them. I don't have magical powers to heal them, but I can take their hand and lead them on a journey of coming within so they can receive the healing. And the biggest block that I see for people is that they don't feel worthy of it. Either that or they are getting significance out of their problem, which is we could do a whole episode on that, on secondary gains.
Receptivity is big in terms, like I'm pranic healer, right? So energy healer, that's what we do. But I'm not healer. I'm just a channel of the energies. Because if we get into a little deeper level on the soul aspect, the soul is who we really are, just inhabiting these bodies. So we're really energy beings. So the more connectivity you have with that, the more energy that you can share and help people out. Totally. It's like going to like a filling station. Oh, your energy's depleted. Come on, I'll help you fill it up. That kind of thing.
And I think what you just said is that we all are soul inhabiting a body, but people are misidentified that they are their body. And so this is exactly what I mean. When I say I grab someone's hand and I take them home to their selves, it's taking them on a journey to reconnect and reintegrate where their identity is they can see themselves as the soul. So the difference is when they look in the mirror and they might judge a physical body and they might have shame and they might have guilt or hurt or whatever. But then when they can feel that sense of reconnection and remembering, and I love this because to dismember means to, cut off arms and limbs and all this kind of stuff. We're broken into parts. That's what dismember means. And remember is bringing all the parts back to a whole. And in our human experience, all of those little traumas, all of the little hurts, all of the heartbreaks, all of those big things that happen, it's like a part or a piece of our soul can almost, like a fragment, can get left in that space, which is why we harbor the unprocessed emotions. And so the process of remembering is, to me, bringing back the little pieces and the fragments of all of the things that have been left back to a whole, and people reconnecting to, oh my gosh, I am connected to all that is, and I am love, and I am such different I am statements. Their identity changes. So I love that you raise that point around, that we are a soul, and when we can remember that, things change.
It's such a huge shift. I mean, it's a small shift, but when you really start to understand it, it's a huge shift. But yeah, self-identity is important. I joke around like I have diabetes, but I say I'm a diabetic. That's a horrible way to self-identify.
Yeah.
So my new self-identification is I'm a rich and famous spiritual influencer, philanthropist, playboy. That's a little
I love it. Is that your new agreement? And so how do your actions and behaviors change to align with that new agreement that you've created, that new identity?
I'm just trying to be like the best light that I can and sharing it and, being part of a community with people such as yourself. And just, you said it earlier about just being an embodiment of the teachings, and I just try to live my life in that manner. It's important, because you can't fake it, right? You either are that person or not. And, as a erotic yogi, we try to strive to high standards in our character building and any purifications that we need to do to try to just improve ourselves. Inner reflection. We do a lot of inner reflection. What did I do wrong today? What can I do better the next time? So, but it's been a fast episode. We got about a minute to go. Any closing thoughts or advice for anybody?
Yeah. My heart's saying that anyone who's watching this, if you feel like that you're too far gone or that this isn't possible for you, it is. And that's why you're here. So there's nothing that you have ever done that makes you unworthy of this, that you are loved right now as you are, exactly as you are, and how you show up. But you're loved so much that you're worthy of more too. And so don't wait for achieving the more before you receive the love that you were born into. You are love. So step into that identity and live your life from that, and allow that love to go with you on the journey to where you're going, not just the destination.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. We do have your website so people can find you. We didn't have the lettering there. drashleigh
That's okay. The Remind Institute is probably most helpful for people. That's
Okay.
where we've got, lots of resources and stuff there. That's probably going to be the most helpful. But my personal stuff is more like I do speaking engagements and all that sort of stuff. So definitely check out the Remind Institute if you're at the individual level and you're on your own journey, because that's where we share most of that and we serve. Remind means to renew the mind, Romans 12:2.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, that green button, the tab, that'll be the link from there. But it's
Yeah.
re-mindinstitute.org or what's that
No, it's
website?
just re-mind.institute.
That's it? All right.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Ashleigh, this has been a great pleasure to have you on the show today. But we are
Yeah,
out of time. Time goes so fast when we're having such a beautiful conversation. So thanks
it
so much
does.
for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing and that you're bringing people together to make a difference in the world. It's definitely a better place with the work you're doing.
Thank you, and you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank
But
you.
it is time to take another commercial break. I am your host, Bob Kolazaric. This is Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. I'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Bob Kolazaric, and you're watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. As we come to the conclusion of today's episode, I just want to again express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Ashleigh Moreland for sharing her transformative journey with us. Her insights on redefining love, embracing authenticity, and just sharing her personal stories of self-discovery have just really left a really indelible mark on my heart, my mind, and hopefully yours as well. Her reflections on the challenges of loving difficult neighbors and the quest to understand the true essence of the soul has resonated deeply within me. She sounds to me like she's an arhatic yogi. Her wisdom has really illuminated the path to personal growth and empowerment, inspiring us to embrace love, authenticity, and resilience in our own lives. It's just been a great pleasure to have her on the show today. So join us next week for another enlightening episode as I welcome Amandine LRH. Her last name is in French, and I promised her I would not do a lot of damage on air. So she's a Reiki master, a yoga, meditation, and Kundalini teacher, and a spiritual life coach as well. Amandine's passion is for unlocking human potential, and it promises to inspire and empower us all. It's going to be another great conversation. So get ready for that. It'll be a great transformative conversation filled with spiritual wisdom and guidance. And before we part ways, I want to invite you to reflect on the lessons shared today and consider how you can apply them in your own journey of self-discovery and growth. Maybe you weren't loved the way that you thought you were loved, and the people loving you thought they were loving you the right way, and there's just a disconnect. So that is really something important to reflect on. I think so many of us can really relate to that. And at my company, Self-Help Coaching, we're dedicated to guiding individuals towards their untapped potential and empowering to lead the fulfilling lives as well. So I schedule my discovery calls on Mondays. So together, if you're interested, we can explore how to customize the program, coaching and healing program that aligns with your unique needs and aspirations. So visit me at www.selfhelpcoachingllc.com to book your call and take the next steps towards personal transformation. You can see my social media contact information there on the screen. Don't be afraid. I appreciate you following me. Be a part of my community. That would be awesome. And so just remember, the journey towards self-discovery and spiritual growth is a continuous process of learning, reflection, and empowerment. Each step you take brings you closer to realizing your own full potential and living a life of purpose and fulfillment. As we conclude today's episode, I want to really thank you for being a part of our community and your commitment to personal growth. I'm here to support you on your journey, and I look forward to connecting with you all soon. Empower your journey with us and discover the transformative power within you, because it really all comes down to ourselves. So thank you once again for joining us today. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and continue to shine brightly on your path to self-discovery and spiritual growth. Until next time, take care, and may your journey be filled with love, authenticity, and resilience. I'm Bob Kolazaric, and you've been watching Greetings from the Ashram, streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. See you next week, everyone. Namaste.
This has been Greetings from the Ashram with host Bob Kolazaric. Through meaningful conversations and practical insights, this show invites you to explore the endless possibilities for personal growth, healing, and spiritual awakening. Tune in each week to discover how these practices can bring balance and harmony to your life, making it a true journey of self-discovery. Fridays, 7 p.m. on the Bold Brave TV network.